ran a body shop that he inherited from my grandfather. So I grew up in a body shop where people were fixing cars, yanking them apart, you know, painting them. And I have to say that over the years, I've also watched that process change, where now you have to be a computer technician. You have to basically use different tools in order to fix the car. And I don't think that that is necessarily dehumanizing. I don't think that we're necessarily losing anything. I feel like it's just an evolution. It's a change, definitely.
Sure.
And
sure, but I was thinking about you could fix a car in your own garage. The average person doesn't own the $50,000 diagnostic equipment now, so that centralizes it to shops. Then it becomes even more centralized to where it won't be in the shops anymore, where they have robots working on the robots. The elite openly have stated that they want to create a system where human labor isn't just cheap, it's obsolete. They claim it'll be good for the earth to reduce world population. The so-called smart grids are already surveilling everything we do. I'm sure you know Google, founded 16 years ago. Its founding documents were recently released last year. They said the plan was to build an AI to take over the world.
Yeah, I mean, they want to, they're an information company. They want to collect all information. If you look at Uber, the ride-sharing service, they just started a partnership with Carnegie Mellon to build autonomous vehicles, and their CEO has openly said, we want to eliminate human drivers because they take 75% of our money is paying the human drivers to drive people around.
So we have to vote with our dollars and keep humans involved to make sure we build the architecture where we're not obsolete. I mean, this is a no-brainer.
Well, I don't know. I mean, is that just trying to like fight progress? I mean, is that so? For instance, if you look at the evolution of a lot of our consumer goods, right? It used to be that they were built in a way, not because the corporations had, used to care about us more.
Planned obsolescence.
They never cared about us, and they never will because they're motivated by economic forces. But they used to only be able to build these consumer goods in ways that we could actually, as consumers, take them apart and fix them. You know, you used to be able to fix a TV, right? Now, because they're more efficient about building these things, we get better products, they're cheaper, they can do amazing things. I mean, there's no human being that can build an iPhone. You know, that's got to be a robot. That's got to be aided by these machines. And so you got to ask, is the trade-off worth it, right? Do I want to be able to field strip my iPhone and replace it with a piece of leather and some rubber bands and have it work like I'm on Gilligan's Island? Or you know, do I want the most futuristic, potentially even disposable consumer good possible? And I'm not arguing for either side. I'm just saying there's a definite trade-off right there.
Sure. Daniel H. Wilson, author of Robopocalypse, is our guest. Here's what I'm getting at. There are natural developments in innovation in free markets that are wonderful. I'm simply saying, from reading the mass body of what the actual corporate chiefs are saying, they actually aren't just motivated by money. They control the central banks that issue the currency and credit. They're motivated by the idea of, quote, saving the earth by reducing world population, and they're maneuvering the population into a position where they are obsolete and will, quote, have all this leisure time, but that's really just so we're domesticated, and then basically you sell out your rights to be able to have children, to be on welfare in the future, and then we're looking at a world where the elites merge with machines and they see a new creature on the planet. That decision, from the compendium of writings I've seen, nonfiction, is the direction that's been chosen by the social engineers. And I don't see that as a better world. I mean, I've never watched House of Cards until I had surgery a few days ago, so I watched 4 or 5 episodes. The first season and the third season. Every episode is about getting rid of old people and how they're worthless. And everybody says it's this cutting-edge show. No, it's not. We're being taught how to be predatory, and we're being taught it's innovation to go into the jaws of the machines.
I'll tell you this. So I don't. I think that's a leap that I'm not willing to take in terms of believing that. I think that corporations can be good or evil. I think they're motivated by money. But what I can speak to in my own experience is being a scientist, you know, and being in a laboratory and actually building this stuff, you know, like autonomous vehicles, speech recognition. I helped build autonomous boats for Northrop Grumman, you know, a big military contractor. But I have to say that at the end of the day, when you're in an academic, you know, setting, when you're in a university somewhere and you're a 25-year-old kid and you're getting a grant, you know, you're trying to get money usually from the government.
Military industrial complex, DARPA.
NIA, the National Institute of Health, sometimes DARPA, yeah, with robotics, but often you're getting money from like health, related sources. So, but look, these kids that are out there building this stuff, they're not evil. They're choosing projects because they want to help people. So, in fact, all of my research was my mom was a case manager. In Oklahoma, she'd go out and visit really rural areas, and she'd check on elderly people that are living independently in their own homes, and she'd just try to make sure that they're safe. But you can't just drive out to every place in Oklahoma and check on people.
Robots will do that.
Right? So all my research is about using this technology to have smart homes so that people could live safely and independently as long as possible in their own homes without...
Oh, listen, I know there's a good end to it, and I know there's people that develop a lot of stuff for research with a good intent. I'm not a anti-technology Luddite here. What I'm getting at with you is that day one, the autonomous craft are for killing. Day one, they're building a system where the robots are meant to displace the labor force. And Bill Joy talked about going to that meeting in 1999 with 200 top technology owners, and they said, we're not going to let people play games and party all day. We're going to get rid of everybody. I mean, that's Wired Magazine.
See, that's the part that I think is a leap, because when I think about corporations, typically what they're doing is they're trying to maximize their profit. And that's going to be a really interesting sort of inflection point to watch, right?
Sure. I mean, money buys you the McMansion, to quote House of Cards. Money buys you the McMansion and the wife that divorces you, okay? And, power builds the stone fortress that's there in 10,000 years. The elite are all about power and life extension and selling the public that it's all sexy to give up their free will into this big combine. And it's all being sold by the different priests of this system right now. But when at the bottom of it is what I'm saying is the robo-apocalypse is here, surveilling, tracking, and then gaming the economy. I mean, the robo-apocalypse is Goldman Sachs gaming the stock market with high-frequency trading that is basically illegal.
Yeah, no, that is just... definitely the high-frequency trading is bad news, I feel like.
But listen, what do you think we can do? Here's my question. You're an engineer, really smart guy, been involved in a lot of this stuff, best-selling author, on the cutting edge of media, got a movie coming out with Brad Pitt as well. Let me ask you this question. Then how do you want to build a future for your family? Do you want to have children? Where do you see this going if it was good and empowering?
Yeah, so I have a 4-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. And I'm 37. I don't know. So I'm getting close to 40, and I've got a family, and I'm actually excited about the future of technology and how it's going to affect my kids, because when you start seeing your kids, what happens is as I've gotten a little bit older, the technology changes. I start getting kind of pissed off. I'm like, oh, it's always some new thing every day, and I'm supposed to memorize it. And I'm just like, why can't things just stay the way they were? But then you start watching your kids and other children, and you see that they're adapting to this whole new world. All this stuff is totally normal for them. This is the scenery of their world, and they're able to do great stuff with all of this technology. So, I mean, I'm excited about it. I don't sense that there's an ulterior motive out there to reduce the population or anything like that. I definitely want my kids to be aware that corporations aren't your friend, and that you are simply a dollar sign walking around out there.
Sure.
But there's got to be a moment when these major corporations realize that they've we can see it right now. I feel like with McDonald's and Walmart, how they just raised the income for their they're capitulating to demand.
Well, I was about to say, I mean, corporations aren't just doing it for the dollar. If they were smart, like Henry Ford, he doubled and tripled the average factory worker price, knowing he had to create an economy for his cars. It's like McDonald's 50 years ago started saying, please throw your trash away. That just made it all filthy and got rid of a service economy and entry-level jobs. We need to build a better economy based on humanity and taking care of the old, and then building space bases. And if people want to merge with, if people want to merge with machines, they can go with this colony. If they want to have a slower development, go with this colony. I mean, I think really space, off-world, needs to be the place where the real cowboy stuff goes on.
Dude, I completely agree with you right there. And that's exactly, So, I think sometimes people have this reaction that, technology is too scary. We've got to hit the brakes, and it's impossible. Human beings, as an animal, as a creature, we build tools. That's what we do. If you put a human being naked in the woods, the first thing they'll do is they'll start building tools. And I feel like as a species, we're at this point in our development where our tools are starting to get really cool, right? I mean, we're beyond...
I built InfoWars to fight tyranny. And I was just a nobody from Texas. It reaches 20 million people a week now.
You talk about being independent. I mean, what's more independent than modifying your body, utilizing technology to modify your body if you want to upload your brain into a computer, if you have that capability? What's more independent than striking out into outer space? I mean, that sounds like science fiction, but so did Amazon having drones delivering packages.
So did sending colonists across the Atlantic Ocean. So did electricity. I mean, the stuff today is seen as magic 100 years ago. It's really just science.
Yeah. So, I wrote another novel called Amped, which is all about people using neural implants to basically cure disability. But what ends up happening is the people that use the technology, they used to have a disability, but now they leapfrog normal ability, and now they're superhuman. And it's about how society reacts to that. And I think a lot of times people assume that the wealthy people are going to get the best technology, right? Well, guess what? Like, if you're really wealthy, you don't really have a lot of motivation to get a hole drilled in your head and get a neural implant, or to upload your brain into a computer. You're not desperate. You're happy with the status quo, right? So I think it's actually, in a lot of times, the opposite. The people who are most desperate, if you've got a child with a disability, there's nothing that's going to stop you from getting the latest technology to help your child.
But expanding on that, I mean, if you look at it, there are legions of studies saying that screen time is actually impairing neurological development in children. It's brain damaging them. And the elites, when you go to Bilderberg, I've covered it, they are actually obsessed with life extension. They just don't want the general public to get it. In fact, there's the headline, Daily Beast, the immortality financiers, the billionaires who want to live forever. So I'm not disagreeing with you overall, but Page and others are completely obsessed with it.
Yeah, but I think life extension might be sort of a unique scenario there. And it's also something that they want to do. I think they're imagining doing this stuff like on their deathbed. What surprised me was was hearing about how, how am I blanking on Steve Jobs? Steve Jobs, his cancer snuck up on him. And when I imagine a billionaire who's out there, I imagine they're getting the cutting edge medical care. They're constantly, getting their health, checked on so that they're not gonna die for as long as possible. But then, you see that death comes for all of us, right? At some point.
That's what I'm saying. How do we know it's not a con game that they claim merging ourselves with machines or uploading our brain? Kurzweil says he's going to recreate his dad off of just papers he had. I mean, that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. The idea of uploading your brain into the machine, I never really understood that, because, look, if you personally want to live forever as yourself, right, to me, that means you need to keep your body alive. If my brain dies and there's a perfect copy of me, I don't care. Congrats to the copy. I'm dead, right? So then having a copy of yourself living forever, that's not about wanting to live forever. That's about erecting a monument to yourself. That's about having a talking gravestone that can tell people about how wonderful you were, right? To me, those are two totally different things. Making a copy of your brain in a computer and living forever, I don't think they're the same thing. What do you think?
I think that you're absolutely on target when it comes to that, but it goes beyond that at some levels, and I want to get your take on that when we come back from break. I want to talk about, when is Robo-Apocalypse coming out? When is the new sci-fi survival film with Brad Pitt coming out? I can't wait to see that. I want to talk about some of your other books, some of your short stories as well. What do you feel about futurist predictions like Ray Kurzweil predicts a singularity around 2025 or earlier? We'll break it all down. And the moves. We've seen Time Magazine and others say, time for driverless cars, get rid of drivers when the machines can do it better. Do we all go to prison, basically?
We're
Stay
on
with
the
us.
march. The